Hello, and welcome to Contemporary Socio-Political Philosophy. Purnaswaraj. Mahatma Gandhi represents a figure of unique integrity, consistency, and humanity. The point of departure of his life philosophy and the basis of his theory and activity in practice are freedom and welfare of any human being and prosperity of peoples and nations of the whole mankind. Non-violence is an elementary and indispensable condition for the materialization of these goals. These principles and values represented a permanent source of inspiration in Gandhi's guidance in his imaginative undertakings, both in the struggle for freedom and independent development of India and the promotion of his role in the international community. As a matter of fact, Gandhi's firm belief in the creativeness and oneness of the people of India and his own active engagement for a peaceful and friendly cooperation among nations on equal footing without any interference or imposition were inexhaustible sources for his personal wisdom and high credibility, both as a father of modern India as well as one of the major moral, spiritual and political international authorities of our times. Gandhi put forward his political ideas in several of his speeches and writings, the most notable of which is a booklet, Hind Swaraj, which he wrote in Gujarati on board the SS Kildonan Castle during his return voyage from London to South Africa. It was first published in two parts in The Indian Opinion, a weekly edited and published by Gandhi, and it refers to Indian anarchists living in London. The Indian anarchists stood for using terrorist methods against the foreign rulers of India. Once freed from foreign rule, India, according to the anarchists, was to pursue the same Western model of modernity. Gandhi's objective in writing Hind Swaraj was to condemn both the cult of violence and the claims of superiority of modern civilization. Gandhi agreed with those extremists who denied the cultural or moral superiority of the modern Western civilization. But he also disagreed with their reactionary and revivalist attitudes towards the Indian tradition. He also rejected their methods of terrorism and violence. The terrorist or violent methods, he said, will not take India on to the path of real Swaraj or true civilization. With regard to the reactionary or revivalist attitude of the extremists towards Indian tradition, Gandhi maintained that while the idea of and tendency towards ahimsa and true civilization is indeed contained in Indian tradition, which tradition too has a course of history strayed off the path of ahimsa and true civilization. Gandhi wrote, I quote, "There are two aspects of Hinduism. There is, on the one hand, historical Hinduism with its untouchability, superstitious worship of rocks and stones, animal sacrifice, and so on. On the other hand, we have the Hinduism of the Gita, the Upanishads, the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, which is the acme of ahimsa and oneness of all creation, pure worship of one immanent, formless, imperishable God." The Swaraj of his conception, he affirmed, was not a conception of Englishtan, that is, English rule without the Englishman. His conception of true Swaraj and true civilization, he clarified, was derived not from the works of such modernist thinkers as Spencer, Mill or Adam Smith, but from the perennial wisdom of Indian thought and from such non-modernist Western thinkers as Tolstoy, Ruskin and Thoreau. From the tradition of Indian thought, Gandhi derived the cognitive evaluative principles of satya or truth and ahimsa or non-violence or the love towards others, which he says should inform our political, economic, scientific as well as technological activities. In his autobiography entitled The Story of My Experiments with Truth, he wrote, I quote, "For me, truth is a sovereign principle which includes numerous other principles. This truth is not only truthfulness in word, but truthfulness in thought also, and not only the relative truth of our conception, but the absolute truth, the eternal principle, that is, God." Unquote. Meaning of Swaraj. The word Swaraj is a sacred word, a Vedic word meaning self-rule and self-restraint, and not freedom from all restraint, which independence often means. As every country is fit to eat, to drink, and to breathe, even so is every nation fit to manage its own affairs, no matter how badly. By Swaraj, Gandhi means the government of India by the consent of the people as ascertained by the largest number of the adult population, whether male or female, native born or domiciled, who have contributed by manual labor to the service of the state and who have taken the trouble of having registered their names as voters. Real Swaraj will not come by the acquisition of authority by a few, but by the acquisition of the capacity by all to resist authority when it is abused. In other words, Swaraj is to be obtained by educating the masses to the sense of their capacity to regulate and control authority. He defined Swaraj briefly as a self-rule and self-restraint in the spirit of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, as the autonomy of the moral self, referring to who has acquired mastery over the senses. The word Swaraj, Gandhi writes, is a sacred word, a Vedic word meaning self-rule and self-restraint, and not freedom from all restraint, which independence often means. Swaraj, so defined, he said, is all-satisfying goal for all time. The major ingredient or constitutive processes of Swaraj are the following. 1. Decentralized participatory democracy. And 2. The spiritualization of politics and economics, or in other words, the integration of politics and economics with the principles of Satya and Ahimsa, to quote Gandhi. It is a complete independence of alien control and complete economic independence. So at one end, we have political independence and the other end, economic. It has two other ends. One of them is moral and social. The corresponding end is dharma, that is, religious in the highest sense of the term. It includes Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, etc., but is superior to them all. We may recognize it by the name of truth that pervades everything and will survive all destruction and all transformation. Moral and social uplift may be recognized by the term we are used to, that is, non-violence. Although the word Swaraj means self-rule, Gandhi gave it the content of an integral revolution that encompasses all spheres of life. At the individual level, Swaraj is vitally connected with the capacity for dispassionate self-assessment, ceaseless self-purification, and growing Swadeshi or self-reliance. Politically, Swaraj is self-government and not good government. For Gandhi, good government is no substitute for self-government, and it means continuous efforts to be independent of government control, whether it is foreign government or whether it is national. In the other words, it is sovereignty of the people based on pure moral authority. For Gandhi, Swaraj of the people meant the sum total of the Swaraj or self-rule of individuals, and so he clarified that for him, Swaraj meant freedom for the meanest of his countrymen. And in its fullest sense, Swaraj is much more than freedom from all restraints. It is in fact self-rule, self-restraint, and could be equated with moksha or salvation. How to realize Suraj was also engaged by Gandhi seriously. He reminded his colleagues that Swaraj will not drop from the clouds, and it would be the fruit of patience, perseverance, ceaseless toil, courage, and intelligent appreciation of the environment. He also reminded them that Swaraj means vast organizing ability, penetration into the villages solely for the service of the villagers. In other words, it means national education, that is, education of the masses. And in the Gandhian discourse, education of the masses means conscientization, mobilization, and empowerment, making people capable and determined to stand up to the powers that be. According to him, real Swaraj will come not by the acquisition of authority, but by the acquisition of the capacity by all to resist authority when it is abused. In other words, Swaraj is to be attained by educating the masses to a sense of their capacity to regulate and control authority. Swaraj of the masses. Real Swaraj will come not by the acquisition of authority by a few, but by the acquisition of the capacity by all to resist authority when it is abused. In other words, Swaraj is to be obtained by educating the masses to the sense to their capacity to regulate and control authority. In place of centralized representative government, the Swaraj of the masses would mean a system of decentralized participatory democracy. True democracy, Gandhi wrote, cannot be worked by 20 men sitting at the center. It has to be worked from below by the people of every village. In fact, Gandhi likened the Swaraj's social setup to an oceanic circle of village republic. He writes, "In this structure composed of innumerable villages, there will be ever-widening, never-ascending circles. Life will not be a pyramid with the apex sustained by the bottom, but it will be an oceanic circle whose center will be the individual, always ready to perish for the village, the latter ready to perish for the circle of villages, till at last the whole becomes one life composed of individuals, never aggressive in their arrogance, but ever humble, sharing the majesty of the oceanic circle which they are integral units." Gandhi also spoke of Suraj in terms of freedom for the meanest of our countrymen and the welfare of the whole people. In practical terms, this would mean, he said, truthful relations between Hindus and Muslims, bread for the masses, and removal of untouchability. He said that Swaraj is a rule of all the people and is a rule of justice. The Swaraj of Gandhi's dreams is the poor man's Swaraj. The necessaries of life should be enjoyed by you in common with those enjoyed by the princes and the moneyed men. But that does not mean that they should have palaces like theirs. They are not necessary for happiness. But you ought to get all the ordinary amenities of life that a rich man enjoys. He has not the slightest doubt that Swaraj is not Purnaswaraj until these amenities are guaranteed to you under it. Purnaswaraj. Purna means complete because it is as much for the prince as for the peasant, as much for the rich landowner as for the landless tiller of the soil, as much for the Hindus as for the Muslims, as much for the Parsis and Christians as for the Jains, Jews and Sikhs, irrespective of any distinction of caste or creed or status of life. The very connotation of the word and the means of its attainment, to which we are pledged truth and non-violence, precludes all possibility of that Swaraj being more of some one than for the other, being partial to some and prejudicial to others. According to Gandhi, under Swaraj, the people would shun the evils of capital and would strive to attain a juster distribution of the products of labor. Suraj, he said, will not be Purnaswaraj until the poor are enabled to enjoy the necessities and amenities of life in common with those enjoyed by the princes and the moneyed men. Purnaswaraj, thus understood, merges into Sarvodaya. Gandhi also referred to his idol of Purnaswaraj as Ram Rajya or Khudai Raj, or the kingdom of God on earth. He explained its meaning as follows. Politically translated, it is perfect democracy in which inequality is based on possession and non-possession of color, race or creed or sex vanishes. In it, land and states belong to the people. Justice is prompt, perfect and cheap, and therefore there is freedom of worship, speech and press. All this because of the reign of the self-imposed law of moral restraint. The impact of Suraj. Swaraj for Gandhi means freedom for the meanest of our countrymen. Real Swaraj will come by the acquisition of the capability by all to resist authority when it is abused. It can only be attained through truth and non-violence. Suraj has both a negative and positive implication. Negatively, it means freedom from alien rule. And positively, Suraj means freedom for the whole people. Everyone is included. The Gandhian Suraj deals with 4 dimensions: political, social, economic, and moral facets. In Suraj, inequalities based on color, race, sex, everything vanishes. He says that performance of duty and observance of morality are important virtues of the concepts of Suraj. Relationship between Suraj and Swadeshi. Gandhi stressed the close connection between Suraj and Swadeshi, between self-government and national dependence. Instead of assimilating the concept of freedom to that of community by merging the individual into an organic conception of society, what Gandhi did was to deprive the very notion of communal self-reliance from his doctrine of individual self-rule, and he showed how the pursuit of Swaraj must necessarily involve the acceptance of Swadeshi. True Swadeshi, according to Gandhi, is a revival and presentation of village industries, which is a lifeline of rural economy, which in turn is the heart of a national economy. It could be understood from his own words what is needed in protection of the village crafts and workers behind them from the crushing competition of the power-driven machinery, whether it's worked in India or foreign lands, claim that it is true, fruitful and 100% Swadeshi. An important consequence of this idea is that our freedom or self-rule depends entirely upon our self-awareness, self-respect and self-discipline, and is a notion that when the masses of a nation are awakened to a sense of their collective and undivided claims to freedom, they have already attained to Swaraj in a sense. Swaraj cannot be attained by a nation, even in the formal sense, unless it is gained as a result of a mass movement involving the willing and conscious participation by most of the individuals who make up a nation. Purnaswaraj denotes a condition of things when the dumb and the lame millions will speak and walk. That Swaraj cannot be achieved by force, but by organizations and unity. He said that, "I do not know any word or phrase to answer it in English language. I can therefore only give an explanation. The root meaning of Suraj is self-rule. Suraj may therefore be rendered as disciplined rule from within, and Purna means complete. Independence has no such limitation. Independence is negative. Purna Swaraj does not exclude association with any nation, much less than with England. But it can only mean association for mutual benefit, and it will. There are countries which are said to be independent, but which have no Purna Swaraj. The word Purna Swaraj is a sacred word, a Vedic word meaning self-rule and self-restraint, and not freedom from all restraints, which independence often means. Now let us summarize what we have discussed. In this session, we discuss in detail about Gandhi's concept of Purna Swaraj. Swaraj refers to a stateless society, according to Gandhi. Swaraj is self-rule which laid stress on India, discarding British political, economical, legal, military and educational institutions. Here, he equates Swaraj with the concept of moksha. Through the Swaraj of masses, he said, we can attain Purna Swaraj. Swaraj can also be attained by following the concept of Swadeshi, because there is a close connection between Swadeshi and Swaraj. Thank you for watching this session. We'll meet again with a different topic in the next session. Till then, bye.